Leo Tolstoy and the Weight of the Russian Soul by AZLAN ADNAN, M.A. Why Russia's greatest novelist tried to turn literature into a moral instrument. Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy was born in 1828 into the Russian landed aristocracy, a world of privilege sustained by serf labor, rigid hierarchy, and inherited power. Orphaned young, he was raised amid wealth and contradiction, conditions that would later define both his moral anxiety and his literary ambition. After a brief and unremarkable period at Kazan University, Tolstoy entered military service, first in the Caucasus and later during the Crimean War. There he witnessed violence not as glory, but as confusion, fear, and waste. These experiences stripped war of its romantic veneer and provided the raw material for his later dismantling of myth in fiction. Tolstoy achieved international fame with War and Peace and Anna Karenina, novels that redefined what prose could do. He expanded narrative beyond plot, using fiction to examine history, ethics, family life, and the inner workings of conscience. His characters live not as symbols, but as moral experiments, shaped by choice, habit, and circumstance. In midlife, Tolstoy underwent a profound spiritual crisis. He rejected the authority of the Orthodox Church, questioned property, denounced violence, and reinterpreted Christianity as a radical ethic of simplicity, nonviolence, and personal responsibility. This shift alienated him from the state, the church, and many admirers. He gave away much of his wealth, freed his serfs, adopted peasant dress, and lived in deliberate tension with his own household. His later writings on faith, education, and social justice influenced figures as diverse as Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Tolstoy died in 1910, having become both a national monument and a moral irritant. His legacy endures not merely as literature, but as a lifelong argument about how truth should be lived. A writer of total ambition, Leo Tolstoy occupies a singular place in Russian literature because he attempted something no other writer pursued with the same seriousness. He did not merely write novels. He tried to contain an entire civilization within narrative form. For Tolstoy, literature was a means of moral inquiry. War, love, death, faith, and power were not separate themes, but different expressions of the same human struggle to live truthfully within history. War and Peace, History Without Heroes. War and Peace is often described as a historical novel, but the label is misleading. Tolstoy dismantles the idea that history is driven by great men. Napoleon appears not as destiny incarnate, but as a man carried along by events he does not control. Battles are chaotic, decisions misfire, and outcomes arise from countless small actions rather than singular genius. This was a radical challenge to autocratic thinking. Tolstoy replaces myth with moral gravity. Responsibility belongs to everyone, and rank offers no exemption from consequence. Anna Karenina, Modern Life as a Moral Trap. Where War and Peace expands outward, Anna Karenina cuts inward. The novel is about adultery, but more fundamentally about social hypocrisy. Anna is destroyed not because she loves, but because she violates the rules of appearance. Men who behave just as destructively continue unscathed, shielded by custom and privilege. The railway, a recurring image, symbolizes modern life itself. It moves forward relentlessly, indifferent to individual suffering. Let the picture breathe. Suffering. The aristocrat who hated aristocracy. Tolstoy's authority came from contradiction. He was born into wealth, owned serfs, and lived comfortably within the system he would later denounce. Rather than weakening his critique, this sharpened it. He understood hypocrisy because he lived inside it. He freed his serfs, gave away wealth, and adopted the dress and habits of peasants. These gestures were not symbolic. They reflected a growing conviction that moral life required material sacrifice, from novelist to moral heretic. In his later years, Tolstoy turned away from fiction and toward ethical and religious writing. He rejected the authority of the church, denounced the state as organized coercion, and reinterpreted Christianity as a doctrine of nonviolence, simplicity, and personal responsibility. War became murder. Property became theft. To many contemporaries, this appeared as madness. To others, it was the logical conclusion of a writer who had always demanded moral coherence. Russia, the West, and Tolstoy's afterlife. Russians continue to revere Tolstoy because he captured their central paradox. A people capable of profound spiritual longing trapped within systems of habit and brutality. Western readers admire him for different reasons. His work induces discomfort. He makes wealth feel obscene and neutrality feel complicit. He refuses the reader the comfort of distance. Tolstoy's enduring significance. If Dostoevsky is the scream of the human soul under pressure, Tolstoy is the long, unblinking stare. He watches life unfold without flinching. He waits until the reader can no longer escape what they already know. Silence is the verdict.